Hi again, everybody. Doug Miles along with Don Henderson as we come to you on Saturday, January 7th. A beautiful, kind of a cool day, Don. Very chilly this morning for Florida, but nice weather right now.
Yes, it is, and an unusual two games, NFL games today, and of course the big story, Hamlin with the game on Monday night. They're still talking about that day in and day out, giving updates on his health. We certainly have to commend all the people involved on Monday night for the way they handled the whole situation. It was very, very difficult.
Yeah, we came back Monday from the ReliaQuest Bowl talking about that, and of course that night was that game, and
Exactly.
obviously a scary situation, but apparently he's doing much better as we talked today. He woke up, I believe, yesterday and actually did a video call to the Bills team, so he apparently is doing well.
Well, and the fact that all of the forces involved did a terrific job. The team on the field, they came out immediately, the ambulances, the Cincinnati hospital, everybody seemed to have done a perfect job of trying to rehabilitate the young man, and nothing but very good news right now.
Yeah, you just wonder now what kind of after effects as far as the league goes, and maybe checking players. We don't know if Hamlin had any kind of heart condition before. They haven't talked about that, obviously, but it might have been just one of those weird things that the heart just stopped from a hit in the chest.
And also the fact you and I talked earlier this morning, two of the cities have already rejected playing that neutral site game. Detroit being one of them, and you and I were talking about would it come to Tampa.
Indianapolis was the other one.
Indianapolis, and so we don't know exactly where the neutral site game would be played. I would think Tampa would be an excellent choice, but you never can tell. They'll probably want to go to, as you said, maybe Vegas or someplace like that.
Yeah, the game obviously will not be replayed. They announced that Thursday, and of course that makes that one less game played by the Bills. So they said if the Bills and the Chiefs do make it to the championship game, to not give one team an advantage, they will play it somewhere neutral site. I figured Vegas would be the obvious choice, but two Midwest teams, they might want, oh, not really Midwest, but Buffalo, Northeast, they want to maybe make it somewhere in the middle somewhere.
Well, you know Vegas better than I. You just came back. I've been out there a few times, but Vegas right now,
I think it'd be a great choice. There's so many people there anyway.
Seems to be capturing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they want the Raiders out there. They still haven't been able to negotiate, having the Raiders move out yet. I can't believe that.
The A's.
What's taking so long? I mean, they keep saying they're going to build a stadium in Oakland. Oakland wasn't any good to begin with, and they've waived the fee to move from, Oakland to Vegas. They don't have to pay the penalty.
Right.
I can't imagine what's taking so long. But at the same time, Vegas is the capital of everything now in sports. The team owners, everybody wants to be in Vegas.
Well, they got the Super Bowl coming up in a couple of years. They already have that.
Everybody wants to be in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, there's building like crazy. We were talking again at breakfast. Even in the entertainment, they're building this huge global sphere owned by Madison Square Garden. 17,000 seat, like a big dome like they have at Disney World, that size. And it's incredible what they're building.
And Dolan, $2 billion project, and the New York Post yesterday had a rather lengthy story about whether Dolan is going to have to sell some of his other properties. I didn't realize he owned so many restaurants. He was
I didn't realize
part
that
of the restaurant chain, and I didn't realize he owned all those restaurants. Or I shouldn't say own them, he was part ownership, but that he may have to sell some of that because the original price of the sphere was something like 1.2 billion or 1.
Right.
Now it's over 2 billion.
Yeah.
So he might have to get some capital to keep going.
Yeah, going back just briefly on the Vegas and baseball, obviously the Oakland A's is one team, but also locally down here, the Rays. They have to start thinking about, because they're not going to build a new stadium here unless it's privately financed, and that doesn't look possible.
Only have 2 years left.
So the Rays would be another alternative to go out to Vegas.
Well, I think Charlotte's a big choice, and of course our friend Pat Williams has been trying now for 2 or 3 years to get the ownership of the Rays to move to Orlando, but so far he has not been successful with that, even though he is guaranteeing them 10,000 season
tickets already, right?
Yeah.
Deposits already.
But as he said when he was on with us, that it takes at least 3 to 5 years to build a stadium, and right now the Rays only have, I think, 2 years left on that
26,
lease.
Isn't it?
I'm not sure what the date is. But so if they don't make a deal within the next 6 months to a year, they're not going to have a stadium to go to.
Yeah, and there's no way that they're going to build another stadium in the Tampa Bay area.
No.
Unless it's totally 100% privately financed and it has to start building this year.
Well, I mean, there's so many events go on, and the fellow that has been most successful in Tampa in all these years is the National Hockey League. You know, Vanek has done so much in the community, has been so involved in the community, and the Lightning have played so well that franchise has really been a dynamite franchise. And the Bucks were on their heels until 3 years ago when they finally put things together and brought Brady in. And but it'll be interesting to see after this year whether or not they go back down. I mean, they couldn't get enough fans in Tampa Bay to get the games on TV.
For years, you couldn't see it locally.
No, you couldn't see it locally.
I mean, they'd buy out the seats.
Yeah, so
you couldn't see it otherwise.
Yeah, and we were down there for the Real Quest Bowl, as you mentioned, and you know, it's tough to draw fans in Tampa Bay at times.
If you're not a winning team, and I mean winning, championships, people have so many other things to do down here. You don't get the rabid fans that want to come to the game.
And the Rays, let's face it, Rays have been winners for 5 straight years, and they still can't draw 10,000 a game.
Can't draw other than the Yankees and the Red Sox. Do not draw well. So anyway, that's what's going on. As far as that goes, talking about the college championship, 2 wild games last weekend. Really came down to the last play in both of those games.
Both games. It's going to be very interesting.
That's Monday night they'll be playing that.
The championship game has always been sort of nip and tuck, but the 2 playoff games have always been widely won. So
high-scoring affairs.
High-scoring affairs. It's going to be very interesting this year. The 2 preceding games, the semifinals, have been very close, as you see, going right down to the last play.
Yeah.
Can TCU stay with Georgia and make it an interesting game on Monday night? That's going to be the question. Is their defense going to be good enough to hold Georgia down so it can be a competitive game? And as I've said to you on several of these shows, Duncan is one of my favorite quarterbacks at TCU, but is he good enough to do it? I don't know. Georgia's awfully good.
Georgia trying to go back-to-back, right?
Yeah, first time in a long time.
Yeah. And TCU, which lost last game of the regular season,
too bad,
gets in as the 4th seed and gets to the final.
Yeah, Dougie got them all the way down to the 1-yard line, first and goal to go, and a chance to put it away. They ran 4 straight plays and couldn't get in, and of course, then the field goal was kicked and
missed field goal,
and that was the only game that TCU lost.
Yeah. Of course, it all changes next year. They're expanding the playoffs. I believe it starts next year, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. It's
or
2 years. I think
Maybe
it's 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 2 years before they do it.
I thought they said the Rose Bowl they just had was the last one as the traditional Rose Bowl, and then it becomes a playoff venue next year.
I don't want to venture on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll
exactly
check on that, but I think it's going to 12 teams.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of like the 4. I understand the 12 is going to make it more interesting, but you won't have the regular season mean as much.
Well, I'll tell you,
it'll be between the 12th and the 13th team getting in, as opposed to top 5 now. Who should be the top 4.
The interesting thing to me is that the conferences are changing so much.
Conference is almost meaningless.
What used to be the Big Ten doesn't mean the Big Ten anymore, because now you got 2 teams in the Pac-12 coming in, and the Pac-12 is not going to be the same because UCLA and Southern Cal aren't going to be there.
Yeah.
And one of the big upsets was the Heisman Trophy winner lost, and they weren't even in. Southern Cal wasn't even in the championship playoff series. So I don't know. They get too big for me.
And we were talking last week at the Reliance Bowl. We kind of followed the score. USC loses to Tulane, a team that nobody really thought would be anything this year, and they win the American Athletic Conference, the one USF is in, and upset USC in the bowl game.
Well, the funny thing was, and you saw it better than I because you were here. I wasn't here, but they played University of Central Florida and lost
regular season.
One of the regular season game losses. It really cost them, but they still got into the bowl game, won every other game, came back in the championship game and beat them in the conference championship game and got into the Rose Bowl game.
Yeah.
So strange.
Yeah, they will be remaining in the American Athletic Conference, which USF is in. Of course, UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati leave.
They leave.
So it becomes a much weaker conference for USF. They have a new coach coming in, Goresh from Tennessee. see if he can turn it around. I've been getting all the emails about all the coaches he's hired. We got those emails 4 years ago when Jeff Scott was hired. Oh, looks like a great staff, but hopefully he'll be more successful. Let's say that.
Well, it is so difficult, even with the portal now, to recruit at that level. Division I, big time football. If you're going to really challenge the big schools, you have to utilize the portal.
Yep.
You have to be a great recruiter, and the schools like Temple, like University of South Florida, those schools that are on the periphery and really don't draw a great deal of fan support because their stadiums aren't on campus. There's
Right.
not the same alumni support you get in other schools. It's going to be very difficult for them to compete.
Yeah, USF has really had to rely on the portal just to get quarterbacks.
Well, you know better about Central Florida because they really came out of nowhere, maybe 7 years
About
ago,
7, 8 years ago.
to become a real powerhouse.
Yeah, so we wish them well, but we also, as the local team, and alma mater for myself, USF, we hope they can turn it around. That was a brutal year this year.
Yeah, well, as I said, Temple didn't do much better.
Yeah, your alma mater, broadcast alma mater, they're also tough. We'll wrap it up with the Bucks. Of course, they make the playoffs last week, winning the division. Doesn't matter what they do this weekend, but
No.
they get in, and Brady has at least one more shot, at least in Tampa Bay, to make a run.
Then, of course, the big story is they're going to go to the hurry-up offense, or they're going to try to play it the way they've been playing it, and which has not been successful in trying to run the football. They're only averaging about 2.5 yards a carry,
Right.
and that's not going to get you anywhere. And
No.
so when they play in the playoffs, Brady's going to pretty much have to put this team on his shoulders and win because they have a lot of deficiencies.
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens. As I said, the other game I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's the Giant Eagle game to see whether either team plays their first line players or whether they just hold everybody out, and especially the Eagles with their quarterback because he still hasn't really fully recovered from that shoulder injury yet. So I'm assuming that they're going to hold him out again.
Right. And of course, they added that extra game this year.
Yeah.
So the 17th game, almost meaningless for most teams.
Yeah. Nobody's going to play there. I shouldn't say that's my opinion. Most of them are not going to play their real frontline players.
Yeah. So we'll see whether that happens. But that'll wrap it up for this edition. And Don, always good to do this, particularly outside, as opposed to doing it outside New Jersey.
You're heading to Palm Springs and to Tucson,
Tucson,
Arizona.
yes.
So
Yes.
you'll be out of the picture for a couple of weeks, and
We might do something on the phone if something breaks. We'll see.
We'll get back together again.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again.